When did tolerance turn into encouragement? When did the oppressed turn into the oppressor? It is Pride Month, which means it is drag your kids to Pride Month. Couple of Sodom and Gomorrah-esque stories from this week in the United States of America. Pizza Hut, the pizza chain, as part of its yearly Book It program, which is designed to get young kids to read, encouraged Pizza Hut customers to pick up the book Big Wig, which is designed for pre-kindergartners through third grade. The story of Big Wig is about a magical wig that kids can wear as a costume and share. And as that wig is worn, it transforms regular, everyday, shy, insecure children into confident drag queens. Big Wig is an embracement of the drag queen. Now, this story comes to you at the same time that in Dallas, Texas, my hometown, for Pride Month, an event was hosted that was entitled Drag Your Kids to Pride. Now, this event featured parents bringing their children to a pop-up strip show in the effect of a runway, dollar bills, and drag queens bumping and grinding down the runway. When did tolerance become acceptance? When did we become Sodom and Gomorrah? Now listen, I want to talk context for just a moment. I am no prude. In fact, I think if we were all taking dope loads of sodium pentothal, if we were on truth serum, the truth is for most of my life, I have been perhaps a libertine. If there's something to enjoy, I generally was one of the guys ready to enjoy. I am not someone who has enjoyed moralizing to others, looking down my nose, holier than thou. I've never thumped the Bible. I'm working on reading the Bible. I've always been someone trying to work on myself, not work on you. I don't think I have ever been someone, yes, to sermonize to my children over the dinner table, usually through the prism of sports, and to sermonize at times with you in all self-awareness, but never one to tell you how to live your life. But there's a difference between live and let live and honestly pushing sexualization onto children. More context. This comes, of course, as June is Pride Month in the United States of America. And street corners in New York City, bars in New York City, corporate logos on Twitter, and perhaps in every town, including your town, across this great land, rainbow flags, and increasingly the innumerable number of striped flags have taken over every flagpole in the U.S. of A. This, of course, is the height of hypocrisy. Bobby Burack, writing at Outkick, did a great job of laying this out. I think the best example of this when it comes to corporate America is Pfizer. Pfizer, of course, is America's, leading policymaker for the past 2 or 3 years? Pfizer. Does it get more powerful? Pfizer has transformed all of its social media pages to, of course, the rainbow pride image in its Twitter logo. Pfizer's not alone. Again, every corporation has done so. In fact, every corporation has done so to the extent that it gathered the attention of Elon Musk. Elon Musk tweeted out a meme of a tornado of corporate logos in rainbow fashion flying through America. But here's what's fascinating. Pfizer, according to Burack, as he did this research and laid it out on Outkick, changed its logo to the rainbow flag in USA, in most of Europe. But it didn't change its rainbow flag universally across the world. Take, for example, Saudi Arabia, where same-sex sexual activity is illegal. Pfizer did not change its logo to the rainbow flag on Pfizer Saudi. Interesting. Isn't that fascinating? This is, of course, in the same vein of the Walt Disney Company or its subsidiary ESPN, preaching to the American people about the evils of the quote-unquote Don't Say Gay bill, which, of course, is a propaganda-driven misnomer of the bill that suggests you cannot preach sexualization to children under third grade. ESPN and Walt Disney happy to moralize to Americans on a law in Florida, but silent when it comes to its laws or its business in China, or doing business with, for example, the NBA in the UAE. You can find this hypocrisy all across the corporate landscape. And you know why in the greater context. Because this has nothing to do with principle. This has nothing to do with tolerance. This has only something to do with the cheapest possible virtue one can accomplish in modern American society. And of course, it's not simply corporations. It's us. It's individuals as well. Changing your Twitter avatar to a rainbow flag means nothing, especially when we see you do business in a place where they employ slave labor. Oh, say like China. No, it's simply a way to say, perhaps, from the corporate executives, please don't hurt me. I'm afraid. I'm going along to get along. But more likely, I'm good. I am virtuous. Just like the corporation, so goes the individual. The vast majority of people on social media, well, I think generally good or well-meaning, are asking of us one of two things. Please don't hurt me. My pronouns are in my bio. Or probably more likely, I am holier than thou. If you're looking for the modern day thumper of some item, it's not a Bible they're thumping, it's a social media account they're thumping. If you're looking for the modern day equivalent of looking down your nose at someone, it's not the person on the first pew of their church house, it's the person monitoring everyone else's social media account. This isn't sincerity. This isn't actual authenticity. This isn't real. This is the opposite of how we began our conversation. This is not taking what you say seriously. This is taking yourself seriously. It's not authentic. It's fake. It's cheap. It's unearned virtue, both as individuals and as a corporation. That is the greater context wherein we see both the story of Pizza Hut and the drag your child to Pride event in Dallas, Texas. Now, earlier this week, I got a chance to view a new documentary by the Daily Wire's Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh will be appearing on the Cain Podcast in the near future. The documentary is entitled What is a Woman? And it is a entertainment, somewhat comedic, somewhat serious, certainly a spotlight on the issue of transgenderism, wherein Matt Walsh travels the world and asks a very simple question of psychiatrists, of physicians, of African tribes. What is a woman? Now, here's what's fascinating in this documentary. You hear from doctors who perform surgeries on patients as young as 16, where they remove a penis or destroy a vagina. These aren't my words, because what you will also hear in this documentary are the words of a trans man who is saying to you, as someone who has transitioned from a female to a male, what we're doing to children is nothing. And I mean this, no hyperbole. In fact, it's impossible to make this exaggerated, that what we're doing to children is child abuse. We're walking around acting like we can mutilate children with no repercussions. Because a 13-year-old, 14-year-old, 8-year-old says to you, this is the phase that I'm in. The same group of people who tell you they will be a professional athlete, and a few of them will, but 99.9% of them will not. The same group of people who tell you their major career choice is professional athlete can tell you that they're going to change their gender, and we take that seriously and track down an amoral doctor. You hear from a doctor who is willing to prescribe puberty blockers. And now we're reducing the age from 16 to something like 8. Whenever you hit puberty, just pre-puberty. Prescribing puberty blockers. Okay, and talking not just casually, flippantly about you can pause puberty, and no big deal. In BD, when we go off the puberty blockers, you just go right back. You just play catch up. Of course, they don't know that because there's been no long-term studies on the effects of puberty blockers. Many of these drugs, as pointed out by Walsh in this documentary, are the same drugs that we give to sex offenders, pedophiles, for chemical castration. In other words, what we use to chemically castrate pedophiles, we use for our children and act like it's just a pause button. Tell me this is not the characteristics of Sodom and Gomorrah. That doesn't take a holier-than-thou religiosity to wonder, what have we become? This is so sinful, so amoral, that all of our modern predilections we focus on are children. Let's talk to them about neo-racism and make them see the world through the prism of race. Let's encourage them to mess with their bodies, totally ignorant and totally carelessly to the long-term implications. Let's let sports for them be ruined by letting boys pretend to be girls. And let's sexualize them by encouraging them to dress up in drag. Now let's return to that. If drag were simply dressing up in a costume, if drag were simply an exercise in tolerance, that would be a different discussion. Drag for an adult can be anything you want it to be. I have had gay friends who I love to this day all throughout my life. And I do have even gay friends who love drag. I would love to have them in this conversation because the question isn't about them as adults. The question is it appropriate for children? Because here's the truth about drag. You don't dress up as Laura Ingalls from Little House on the Prairie. You don't dress up like a 44-year-old school mom, a soccer mom. You dress up like a stripper. That is drag. It is inherently sexualized. Have you ever noticed when people dress up in drag, they don't wear ankle-length dresses? They don't wear hose? No. They wear the same thing that strippers wear. And I got nothing against strippers. Again, back to the top of this conversation. If we're being honest about our lives, I've enjoyed strippers in the past, sweetheart, in the past. However, this is targeted to 8-year-olds. Who out there, which of you out there think, you know what would be a good idea? Sweetheart, what do you want to do tonight? I don't know. Let's load up Timmy and take him to Baby Dolls. Well, that would be fun. Yeah, nice family night at the strip club. I hear they have good steak and shrimp. Yeah, the surf and turf. Nice. Grab the dollar bills, baby. Give Timmy about 100 ones. No one does that. So why do you do it if it's in drag? How is that acceptable? Of course it's not. Drag is not about simply wearing a costume. It's about sexualization. So why are we sexualizing kids and acting as though that's okay? Here's why. And listen to me now and stay with me. Because of social justice. Oh, Will, here you go. Fox News talking point. What's this have to do with critical race theory? What's this have to do with the NBA's favorite mantra? Listen, social justice is about, philosophically, and believe it or not, although we, you, the casual observer, may not see it at the depth, may just be a simple empathetic feeling, it has roots, and there are people driving this from a philosophical perspective. Critical race theory is not alone. It has cousins. in, for example, critical queer theory, critical gender theory. All of them branches on the tree off of critical theory. And critical theory is the way to see the world through the lens now of oppressor and oppressed. Your station in life, the way society is designed, the systems and framework can all be explained through the prism of oppressor and oppressed. Now, according to critical theory, any type of marginalized or minority community is in the seat of the oppressed. And the goal of critical theory is not to achieve equality. It's quite explicit about this. Not to achieve tolerance and acceptance and equality, but to achieve equity. And equity requires unequal outcomes. Therefore, equity requires a reverse of the roles of oppressor and oppressed. The oppressed must become the oppressor to achieve equity. Why is this important? Because it explains how we got here, how we moved beyond tolerance and acceptance to encouragement. You see, Barack Obama was opposed to gay marriage. Bill Clinton was opposed to gay marriage. The movement, which I was a part of, to accept gay marriage, someone who said we as a government should acknowledge the ability of people to be recognized in a loving relationship by the government of the United States, regardless of their sexuality, quickly blew past tolerance and started moving towards not just encouragement, but repression. You have to repress the previous oppressor. What does that mean? It means villainize. It means villainize traditional marriage, villainize the traditional family, villainize the church, villainize anything that previously was seen as the oppressor. And therefore, you are totally justified to encourage breaking down traditional roles, breaking down husband and wife, breaking down the taboos, even of sexualizing children. Look, you can't deny this when these are in their own words. These explanations I'm giving you of critical theory and then the branches of critical gender theory, critical queer theory, critical race theory, it's all there. It's all explained. I want you to listen in their own words to the Dallas Drag Your Kids to Pride event. The journalists at Essential Fleckas, it's a podcast, Fleckas Talks the podcast, they went to the Dallas event and they asked some of the drag queens there who were performing in front of a neon sign that said, "It's not going to lick itself," as they twerked and grinded the floor at this event with kids throwing ones. What do you hope to accomplish? I want you to listen to the answers. There you go. To encourage more kids to perform in drag. And listen, again, it's not saying bend gender rules. It's not saying encourage kids to wear mom jeans. It's saying encourage kids to dress up as strippers and dance sexually and toss ones. It's the sexualization of children. We have to ask ourselves, where's our line? How much is too much? What are we willing to go along with? The parents that you can see in these videos, they have to answer to the same hypocrisy that corporations and individuals out there as to what is their true motivation. Is this really about tolerance and acceptance? Is this really about raising your kid to be a better person? Or is this about showing the world that you're a better person by the modern definition? Are you not using your children just like your Twitter avatar? Are they not your human version of a rainbow flag? You think all those kids wanted to be at that event? I saw some videos of some young boys sitting there playing their video games at the bar, by the way. No, this is exploiting children for your own cheap, unearned virtue. And therefore, we have to ask what's next. What else will you sell out for your cheap path to virtue? What's the next step? 10 years ago, Barack Obama was opposed to gay marriage. 10 years later, it's drag your kids to Pride. What's next? You think the right-wing crazies are crazy to bring up grooming. If this isn't grooming, what is? So what's next? What step will you take? What are you willing to go along with? What is too much? Because I think for many of us, we've already crossed that line. We're already Sodom and Gomorrah. Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain Podcast for full episodes right now.